Bit of an intermission, it seems. If I didn't stand out earlier not wearing the gown, I think I stuffed up on just knowing the first verse of the anthem and just forgetting the rest. To the design faculty, dignified guests, parents, and most especially to you in front of me, the 2014 graduating classes of Think Education. Firstly, congratulations. Yay. She's on board. You did it. You made it out alive. Secondly, thank you for allowing me this honour to impart some words on your special day. In preparation for this speech, I asked myself, what is the single most important message you want to leave the graduates? My brain immediately rushed through thoughts of street smart thinking. Don't put foil in the microwave. Wear slip-on shoes when catching a plane to get through customs quicker. Never scull a Coke while sucking on a Mentos. Don't wear headphones when crossing the road while travelling through Asia. Never walk alone through dark alleys in Paris unless your father is Liam Neeson. Don't fall asleep while eating chewing gum or chewing gum on a Greyhound bus. And when your newly single best mate says, let's just have a quiet drink on a Friday night, it's really code for we're not coming back till Sunday. But all these things you already know. You are very smart people. What I really would like to impart sits under the umbrella of one single word: time. The word that captures both the minuscule and the minute, the infinite and the grand, the past and the present, the variable that connects who we are and who we'll become. We are the sum of thousands of years of knowledge. If we take the great pharaohs such as Tutankhamun, Khafra, Cleopatra, great royalty like Alexander the Great, King Arthur, Queen Elizabeth I, and great pioneers like Jesus, Albert Einstein, Benjamin Franklin, Leonardo da Vinci, Martin Luther King Jr., Colonel Sanders. The list goes on. We are living in the most abundant era that came before us. At what point in history could we transfer money across the world with a click of a button, access a thing called the internet wirelessly, exchanging data, while soaring across the air in a 378-ton cylindrical metal container known as an airplane? Or how about ordering circular dough-based deliciousness with pepperoni and cheese right to our doorstep with a few taps on this object we call smartphones? Speaking of smartphones, they carry more technology than that which placed 2 astronauts on the moon. So in your pockets, you're carrying more computer power than all of NASA back in 1969. It seems hard to believe, but is actually true. A handheld device on which we fling birds at pigs or crush candy with has greater computational capabilities than the arsenal of machines used for guiding crafts through outer space 46 years ago. There are avalanches of opportunities for you and I, for all of us, paved by the bulldozing of past dreamers, thinkers, doers, innovators, and those that dared to be bold, courageous, and refused to be defeated even when the odds were against them. But time is a funny thing. We seem to think it'll last forever, especially when we're on a winning streak. Truth be told, we're only a speck of dust in the universe. I remember when I was a child, I'd run, jump, climb, hang, and swing on anything and everything, thinking I was invincible wearing my Superman onesie. It's probably why I broke my arm 3 times and had 16 stitches all before the age of 11. The complete opposite of the boy who cried wolf. Every cry was an actual emergency, so my parents had a second full-time job. Growing up, though, I was never the tallest, never the brightest, never the most wealthy, certainly never the most popular. I know it's hard to believe. I can almost hear your screams of outrage. But I'll stop you there. In fact, I was the exact opposite. Shortest in my grade in primary school, 3rd shortest in high school. Average grades and thrown in the friend zone by the mean girls. I'm still recovering from that trauma. But in all seriousness, it's important to look back at how far we've come. My mum was one of 5 siblings, my father, one of 11. Growing up for them, they'd be stoked with a piece of bread and a tablespoon of peanut butter for the day. When I look back, the fuel that kept them going was the same fuel that got me here today, the same fuel that helped you travel to this milestone achievement, and that is love. My parents, I'm sure, just like yours, loved me at my worst when I was a spoilt, moody brat to a spoilt, moody adolescent student. And they loved me at my best, despite being a late bloomer. Now, I've been fortunate enough to have had an almost 12-year career in the design industry, working with some of the world's most renowned companies, including Ogilvy and Mather, DDB, McCann World Group, and Imagination. Designing for some of the most well-known brands, such as Audi, Qantas, Coke, Google, McDonald's, Telstra, and Louis Vuitton. Take me back to where you're sitting now, and it was truly all but a dream. However, if we pay attention to pattern, I've realized that everything we have right now all began with nothing but a thought, an idea in our minds. Whatever you believe can be conceived. I'm living proof. Not long ago, I returned from my 3-month USA speaking tour over November, December, and January. I visited 22 cities, experienced the real America, and engaged with over 10,000 people in an attempt to share my learnings documented in my latest book, How to Get a Job as a Designer, Guaranteed. One of the many highlights during that trip was having a private lunch with Gary Smith. He is the Vice President of Product Design and Development at Herman Miller. As some of you may know, Herman Miller created the famous Aeron chair, Marshmallow sofa, and the Eames lounge chair. Further background on Gary Smith, he was previously the design director for Hasbro in the 80s and was hugely responsible for the creation of Mr. Potato Head, G.I. Joe, and My Little Pony. He could even freely sketch the outline of the first My Little Pony design on a napkin with a pen. During our lunch conversation, one story I'd like to share is about Gary and his 7-year-old son. One afternoon, Gary was teaching his son how to paint. The subject matter, a deer. As they both started painting away, Gary's son started getting frustrated that his painting was just blobs of paint and it didn't look anywhere near like a real deer, like his father's. Gary then asked his son, "What is a deer?" His son just looked at him perplexed and confused with a response saying, "Ease up on the red cordial, Dad, and stop sniffing the paint." Then Gary went on to say, "Don't paint the deer, paint what the deer is." Now, before the son could bail, Gary picked up his brush, dabbed a little bit of paint, and continued with, "What is a deer? A deer is powerful, it's graceful, it's majestic. So paint this. A deer isn't violent or erratic or hot-tempered, so don't paint the deer that way. Paint what the deer is." So the question I ask you is, what are you? What are you really? Because what you hold in your hands is more valuable than what money could ever buy. And I'm not referring to the piece of paper soon to be collected as your name echoes in this venue. Half of you already have that. I'm referring to your abilities. Trust in them. Although seemingly premature, they are bursting to solve problems, to flood the world with simplicity, with beauty, entertainment, with innovation, and most of all, with value. You are a gift. You have a responsibility. You are the thinkers, the doers, and the makers of right now. You are light in a world that can sometimes seem dark. You matter, and the world needs you. When you believe that you truly have value in the world, you realize that you have an obligation to deliver it. Try not to fall into the trap of settling for safe or living a life based on the expectations of others. Look inward. You've already tasted what you really want to be doing. What you want is sacred. It's fragile, and it can be taken from you in a whisper. Protect it. Stay in that sanctuary. The vibration within you exists and is real. There are only so many tomorrows. We are not living in eternity. We have only this moment sparkling like a star in our hand and melting like a snowflake. I read that on a faded rectangular sticker behind a toilet door in Amsterdam once. The clouds of smoke that enveloped me surprisingly amplified that epiphany while James Blunt's "You're Beautiful" played in the background. I'm still figuring out if I was actually there. If we tango at the idea that our lives are fleeting and momentary, we in turn are better able to respond to the demons you may be feeling at the moment. Uncertainty, doubt, fear. I remember thinking, how am I going to pay for my debt? Can I really get a job in design? Did I just waste the last few years? I could possibly be poor forever. Where's Mum? Someone, please hold me. But you know what? I can say with absolute confidence that everything is going to be just fine. More than fine. In fact, what you're feeling is a good thing. It means that what you want matters and that it's important. If we take fear in the mix, it's an indicator. Fear is your friend. Sometimes it tells us what we shouldn't do. More often than not, it's actually telling us exactly what we should do. Fear is simply false constructs built on untested assumptions. So fail, but fail quickly in order to succeed, and constantly live outside your comfort zone to accelerate your growth and learning. To conclude, my last few words that I'd like to share with you are actually from my mother. As glamorous as it may seem, traveling across America for 3 months straight, catching planes like catching buses, was hard work and at times quite lonely. Mothers know best, and even when we plaster a permanent brave exterior, they advise us nonetheless. Halfway through my trip, my mum texted me a dose of her wisdom. She said, "Son, keep painting the world with your colours and remember where you came from." She didn't even ask how I was, but in standard Yoda-like fashion, she didn't need to. When I returned back to Sydney, the first thing Mum said was, "How does it feel to climb up that mountain?" I smiled, and she went on to say, "Make sure you come back down and share to everyone what you found." So, I invite you all to climb up and conquer those mountains, because it's the job of a designer to see things that others may not, to dive into worlds that many can't even begin to imagine, to bring back souvenirs from those places and extract what is really important and necessary. It won't be a walk in the park. There will be struggles, but take comfort in knowing that it gets painfully difficult right before you succeed. Keep exploring, keep questioning, keep experimenting, and allow yourself to be completely immersed in creativity, because you'll find out, if you haven't already, that the entire lifestyle is a vehicle for pioneering experiences of great value. Thank you, and once again, congratulations.